You ever walked into a place so familiar you could trace every crack on the counter? But one day everything changes. That's what happened to me. I'd been working at Hawthorne Grill, a tiny diner clinging to the edge of a sleepy town in North Dakota. Smelled like burnt coffee and bacon that refused to die. The kind of place regulars never left, and management never changed until it did. My name's Ava Johnson, and when this started, I had a busted wrist wrapped in a white bandage, a stack of overdue bills, and a manager who smiled like poison. His name was Rick Dalton. Slick hair, white teeth, the kind of man who called himself stern, not mean. But behind the register, he was the storm in every shift. Called me Miss One-Hand Wonder, always loud enough for customers to hear. Dropped lines like, "This isn't a soup kitchen and use both hands." Oh, wait. Right. It was never just a joke. It was always a jab. But I smiled through it. You have to when your mama needs insulin. Your brother's meds don't come cheap, and rent don't wait on a healed wrist. Every day I'd slide between booths, balancing plates on my hip coffee pot tucked under my chin. I'd grit my teeth when that bandage brushed a corner and pray no one saw the wince. And Rick, he'd brush past. "Don't overdo it, sweetheart," like he was being helpful. But there was one person who watched quietly, an old man named Mr. Walter. Sat in the corner booth like he owned the place. Turns out he did. No one knew. He kept it that way. Said observing told him more than reports ever could. And he saw it all. The snide remarks only aimed at me. The fake write-ups Rick started filing. Late to clock in even when I opened the place. Uncooperative tone because I asked for help with 10 plates. I thought maybe I was imagining things until that night. The diner was empty, lights low, just me wiping tables and Rick talking loud in his office with some buddy. He was laughing, bragging. Been skimming from the register for weeks, he said, clear as day. And if anything goes south, I'll pin it on the black girl. Who's gonna believe her over me? I froze, then turned to go, and there he was in the hallway, smiling with those white teeth. Grabbed my wrist, the hurt one, and twisted. "Stay quiet," he whispered. "Open your mouth and no one will hire a crippled black girl." I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Every heartbeat felt like it echoed his words. The next morning I wrapped my wrists tighter and showed up for work. What else was I gonna do? But Mr. Walter, he showed up different that day too. He wasn't sipping coffee anymore. He was watching with a purpose. He saw Rick snap his fingers and say, "Table 5, use both hands." Oh, wait. And he didn't just write it off as cruelty. He saw a pattern. That afternoon, Rick bumped into me on purpose, spilled water down his shirt, then barked clumsy. Again. I wanted to disappear. But Mr. Walter rose quietly, paid for his coffee, and left without a word. I didn't know then he wasn't walking away. He was preparing. 3 days later, right as the lunch rush hit, and Rick was barking out orders like a budget drill sergeant, Mr. Walter stood up, tapped his spoon against the coffee cup, once, twice. Everything froze. And then he said it. "My name is Walter Green. I own this diner." You could hear jaws hitting the floor. Rick laughed, thought it was a joke, until Mr. Walter dropped a thick folder on the counter. "These are your write-ups, your handwriting. Same phrases, different dates. Here are camera logs. Odd how they cut out during cash counts. And these statements from employees who've heard you mock Ava repeatedly." Rick's face drained of color. Then Walter said the words I still hear in my head. "This morning I called the police," and just like that, the front door swung open. 2 officers walked in. Rick started sputtering. "She's clumsy. I was generous keeping her. Low performers are the same everywhere." But Walter didn't flinch. He said, "Performance isn't an excuse for humiliation, and use both hands isn't feedback, it's cruelty." Then he looked at the room. "Anyone else have something to say?" Melissa, a regular, spoke first. I heard him say, "This isn't the ghetto." Dana followed. He blamed her when my table hadn't even ordered. Jay raised his hand. He says both hands at least 5 times a shift. Rick tried to bolt, but the cuffs were already waiting. When they clicked shut, someone started clapping. Then another. It wasn't a celebration, it was relief. Walter turned to me and said, "From today forward, you won't stand alone." And he meant it. I was promoted to floor supervisor, paid leave, full medical covered. A buddy system was created for new and injured staff, and pinned above the register a sign that read, "Respect lives here." We trained every employee on feedback versus ridicule. Role-played tough customers named microaggressions for what they were. Cameras were upgraded, shift reports verified, anonymous reporting protected. And every Sunday, Walter and I held a small open mic. We called it the Spoon Tap, a time where anyone could speak, witnesses, customers, staff. One night, Ross's drinking buddy stormed in shouting that we were playing the race card. I held out my hand for the mic, looked him in the eye, and said, "On January 21st, 12:07 a.m., Rick Dalton twisted my injured wrist." I didn't make that up. I lived it. And we don't need cards to name patterns. We need courage. He tried to argue, but Officer Alvarez happened to be sipping coffee at a nearby booth. The man left, quietly. After that, things didn't magically fix overnight, but they changed, bit by bit. Customers started leaving notes on a thank you board near the register. "We see you, proud of you." No more silence. Every week we added another pledge to protect dignity. Eventually, a local paper wrote a story. "Small diner teaches town. What respect looks like." The photo showed me standing with Walter, hands still bandaged, but smile wide. A real one this time. A month later, we started a fund called White Band to support service workers hurt or targeted on the job. Walter pledged 1% of Sunday revenue. Melissa and Dana organized fundraisers. Dr. Owens, our DEI trainer, used our case as a national teaching model. And as for me, I went from being the black girl with one hand to being Ava Johnson floor supervisor systems lead, and someone people trusted to call things by their name. The day I testified in court, I didn't cry. I just said violent, subtle bias and paper traps were used to silence me. But I named it. I stood back up. And that's enough. Ross took a plea, community service restitution and a restraining order. His silence clause denied, because naming the truth out loud that was non-negotiable. Now every shift I train someone new. I say, when you feel that something's off, don't swallow it, name it. And if your voice shakes, know that it still counts. So here's my question to you. Have you ever seen someone mocked, belittled, or written off just because of how they look or what they couldn't do for a moment? Did you speak up or stay silent? Tell me in the comments, because justice isn't always about grand speeches. Sometimes it starts with a spoon tap and someone finally naming things right.